There are moments in life when the truth does not arrive with noise. It waits quietly at the edge of an ordinary evening, allowing every hidden piece to fall into place before anyone realizes what has changed. Last night became one of those moments. While the world carried on as if nothing unusual had happened, a quiet conversation, an unexpected discovery, and a single honest realization began uncovering a story that had remained carefully covered for far too long. The truth was never trying to stay hidden forever, it was simply waiting for the right time to reveal itself. And somehow, that time has found its way to you. Do not rush ahead. Don't skip, because every detail matters more than it first appears. What is unfolding is not only about someone from the past. It is also about why certain emotions inside your own heart have never fully made sense until now. Sometimes we believe we are waiting for answers from other people, only to discover that the answers have been quietly moving toward us all along. The person you truly love has carried silent questions they rarely spoke aloud. There were moments when they seemed distant without explanation, moments when they smiled while something deeper remained unresolved beneath the surface. You may have wondered if those quiet changes had anything to do with you. The surprising truth is that the story reaches much farther back than you imagined, and it begins with someone who believed that keeping certain things hidden would protect everyone involved. Yet secrets have a curious way of becoming heavier than honesty. The longer they remain untouched, the louder they echo inside the hearts of those connected to them. Last night, one small conversation became impossible to ignore. It was not dramatic. It was not filled with anger. Instead, it carried something far more powerful, a moment when pretending no longer felt easier than telling the truth. In that single moment, pieces that had never seemed connected suddenly began fitting together with remarkable clarity. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. As each hidden piece begins to surface, you may recognize that what once appeared confusing was never meant to leave you lost forever. Sometimes the greatest surprise is not discovering what another person concealed, but realizing why the truth had to wait until your own heart was ready to understand it. And what was quietly spoken after that first confession is the part no one expected, because it changes the meaning of everything that came before. A strange thing happens when a hidden story finally begins to breathe in the open. It does not reveal every answer at once. Instead, it offers one quiet piece, then another, inviting those who truly care to see the picture forming little by little. That is exactly what unfolded after the first truth was spoken. The silence that followed carried more meaning than the words themselves, because everyone present understood that nothing could return to the way it had been before. The person from the past had spent a long time allowing an incomplete version of events to shape how others remembered them. It was easier to let assumptions grow than to admit where misunderstandings had quietly taken root. But last night, something unexpected interrupted that familiar pattern. A simple question was asked, one that could not be answered with another excuse. For the first time, honesty became the only path left. Don't skip, because this next realization changes the direction of the entire story. As the conversation continued, it became clear that the greatest secret was never about creating distance between you and the person you truly love. It was about protecting an image that had become increasingly difficult to maintain. Layer after layer, old explanations began losing their strength. Details that once seemed unrelated suddenly connected with remarkable clarity, leaving everyone listening with the same quiet realization. The story they had believed for so long had never been complete. Meanwhile, the person you truly love was unaware that these pieces were finally falling into place. They had carried questions without expecting answers, choosing patience over endless searching. Yet sometimes life begins solving what the heart has stopped trying to force. Without anyone planning it, the truth started moving toward them, one honest sentence at a time. Stay till the end. Because something important is waiting for you. There was one final statement shared before the conversation came to a pause. It was spoken softly, almost as though the speaker hoped no one would fully understand its meaning. But those few words revealed that the hidden secret was connected to a choice made long ago, a choice that quietly influenced everything that followed. And when that forgotten choice is finally uncovered, you will understand why the person you truly love has been standing closer to a new beginning than they ever realized. Not every revelation arrives as a dramatic confession. Sometimes it appears in the smallest detail, the kind that almost everyone overlooks until it suddenly explains everything that came before. As the night continued, another memory resurfaced. At first, it seemed ordinary, almost too insignificant to matter. Yet the longer it was remembered, the more everyone realized that this forgotten moment had quietly been pointing toward the truth all along. The person from the past had often spoken with confidence, as though every chapter had already been written. But confidence can sometimes hide uncertainty, and certainty can sometimes conceal unanswered questions. Last night, that carefully built certainty began to fade. One thoughtful observation led to another, and the version of events that had remained unchanged for so long slowly gave way to something far more honest. Don't skip, because the next piece is where everything begins to feel unexpectedly personal. The person you truly love was never competing with a memory. They were never measured against someone else's past. The hidden weight came from unfinished emotions that had never been fully understood, not from lasting affection. There is an important difference between holding onto someone and holding onto unanswered questions. Last night, that difference finally became impossible to ignore. As this realization settled over the conversation, the atmosphere changed. No one felt the need to defend old decisions anymore. Instead, there was an unusual sense of calm, as though everyone had quietly accepted that the truth had arrived in its own perfect time. It was not about blaming anyone. It was about seeing the past clearly enough that it could finally stop shaping the present. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. Then came a sentence that no one expected to hear. It was spoken almost in a whisper, yet it carried more meaning than everything said before it. The speaker admitted that the biggest secret had never been hidden from the world, it had been hidden from themselves. Only after saying those words did they recognize how much had changed without anyone noticing. And just when it seemed the entire story had finally been revealed, another unexpected detail emerged. Someone mentioned a message that had never been shared, a message connected to the person you truly love, quietly waiting for the right moment to be understood. What those words contained will change the direction of this story once again. There are truths that arrive like the sunrise, slowly brightening every corner until nothing remains hidden. And then there are truths that appear in a single quiet instant, changing the meaning of every memory without raising their voice. What happened next belonged to the second kind. The forgotten message was finally brought into the light, not because someone planned it, but because no one could pretend it no longer mattered. The room grew quieter as each word was remembered. It was not a message filled with dramatic promises or emotional speeches. Instead, it carried an honesty that had been missing for a very long time. The person from the past admitted that many of the assumptions surrounding the relationship had been allowed to grow simply because correcting them felt uncomfortable. Over time, silence had become easier than clarity. But silence has limits, and last night those limits quietly disappeared. Don't skip. Because this is where the hidden secret begins to reveal its true meaning. The message spoke less about what had happened and more about what had been misunderstood. It revealed that several moments you might have believed were connected were, in reality, shaped by incomplete information. Sometimes a single missing detail can cause an entire story to look different. Once that missing piece was finally restored, everything else began falling into place with surprising ease. Meanwhile, the person you truly love remained unaware that this quiet chain of honesty had begun. They continued moving through the evening just as they always had, never imagining that old questions were finally receiving long-awaited answers. There is something remarkable about life. It often works behind the scenes before it changes what we can actually see. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. As the final lines of the message were read, one realization settled gently over everyone listening. The greatest secret had never been about holding on to the past. It had been about learning to let go of a version of the past that was never completely true. That realization brought an unexpected sense of peace, replacing uncertainty with quiet understanding. But just as everyone believed the message had said everything it needed to say, one final detail came to light. Tucked away at the very end was a name that no one expected to find, a name connected to the person you truly love in a way that had never been spoken aloud before. The meaning behind that single name is about to open the next chapter, and once it is understood, the entire journey will feel different from where it first began. Some names carry more meaning than anyone realizes. They are spoken in passing, written on forgotten pages, or remembered only in quiet moments. Yet every so often, a single name becomes the key that unlocks an entire story. That is exactly what happened next. The room did not react immediately. Instead, everyone paused, as though they instinctively understood that this unexpected detail was connected to something far greater than anyone had imagined. The name was not introduced with excitement or surprise. It appeared naturally, almost gently, but its presence changed the atmosphere completely. One person quietly admitted that this name had come up more than once over the years, always in conversations that seemed ordinary at the time. Looking back, those moments no longer felt ordinary at all. They now formed a quiet thread connecting pieces of the past that had never been viewed together. Don't skip, because the next realization is one that very few people ever experience. The person from the past finally acknowledged something they had never expressed clearly. They explained that they had spent far too much time focusing on what had already ended, while overlooking what life had been trying to teach them. It was not regret that filled the room, it was understanding. There is a profound difference between wishing to relive yesterday and finally learning from it. Last night, that difference became unmistakably clear. As those words settled into the silence, another thought emerged. The person you truly love had never been standing in anyone's shadow. They had been quietly building something genuine without even realizing how different their path had become. While old stories were finally finding their ending, a new chapter had already begun to grow, unnoticed by almost everyone involved. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. Then someone recalled one final conversation from months ago. At the time, it had sounded like an ordinary exchange, the kind people quickly forget. But when it was remembered alongside everything that had been revealed last night, its meaning transformed completely. Hidden inside those simple words was a quiet promise, not a promise about returning to the past, but about embracing the truth when the right moment finally arrived. Just when everyone believed there was nothing left to uncover, another unexpected detail surfaced. It was not written in the message. It was not spoken during the conversation. It came from someone who had simply been listening all along, someone who noticed one small detail that everyone else had overlooked. And that quiet observation is about to reveal why the person you truly love has been closer to complete clarity than anyone has yet realized. It is often the quiet observer who notices what everyone else misses. While others were focused on the words that had been spoken, one person had been paying attention to something entirely different, the pauses between those words. Sometimes silence tells a story that sentences never can, and last night those silent moments carried a truth that no one had expected to uncover. Without interrupting anyone, the listener shared a simple observation. They remembered that every time the conversation turned toward the person you truly love, the expression on the face of the one from the past changed ever so slightly. It was not sadness. It was not frustration. It was recognition. The kind that comes when someone finally understands that certain chapters are not meant to be rewritten, they are meant to be appreciated for what they taught before being peacefully left behind. Don't skip. Because what comes next quietly changes the meaning of everything revealed so far. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then came an unexpected admission. The person from the past smiled gently and said they had spent far too long believing that keeping quiet would protect everyone involved. But silence had only allowed misunderstandings to grow. The truth, they realized, was never something to fear. It was something that set every heart free to move forward without carrying questions that no longer belonged to the present. As those words settled into the room, another realization appeared almost naturally. The person you truly love had never been searching for perfection. They had simply been hoping for honesty. Not dramatic explanations. Not endless apologies. Just the quiet comfort of knowing where they truly stood. And without even realizing it, that comfort was beginning to find its way toward them. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. Then someone unfolded a small note that had remained unnoticed throughout the entire evening. It was not long. Only a few sincere lines, written with unusual clarity. The note did not dwell on the past. Instead, it expressed gratitude. For lessons learned, for misunderstandings finally fading, and for the chance to let every person continue their journey without unfinished questions. Reading those words brought a calm that no one had expected, as though the story itself had finally taken a deep breath. Yet before the evening could truly come to an end, one final thought quietly surfaced. A single sentence from that note seemed almost ordinary at first, but the more everyone reflected on it, the more powerful it became. It hinted that the person you truly love was about to discover something that had never been hidden from them by chance. It had simply been waiting for the perfect moment to be recognized. And that moment is closer than anyone realizes. The most meaningful discoveries rarely happen the moment the truth is spoken. They happen afterward, when every quiet detail begins settling into place and the heart finally has space to understand what the mind could not see before. That was the feeling that lingered as the night slowly drew to a close. No one hurried to leave. It was as if everyone sensed that one final realization was still waiting to reveal itself. A gentle breeze moved through the open window, carrying with it a silence that no longer felt uncertain. Instead, it felt peaceful. Someone looked back over everything that had been shared and quietly smiled. It was never about hiding a person, they said. It was about hiding the fear of facing the truth. Those simple words seemed to lift a weight that had been resting on every conversation for far too long. Don't skip, because the next piece may be the one that speaks directly to your own heart. The person from the past no longer tried to explain every decision or revisit every memory. They simply accepted that some seasons exist to teach, not to last. There was a quiet strength in that acceptance. It reminded everyone present that letting go is not the same as losing. Sometimes it is the very thing that makes room for something more genuine to grow. At that very moment, the person you truly love was completely unaware that old misunderstandings were quietly dissolving. They continued living their evening as they always had, never realizing that the invisible weight surrounding yesterday was becoming lighter with every honest word that had been spoken. Life has an extraordinary way of preparing tomorrow while we are still focused on today. Stay till the end. Because something important is waiting for you. Then an unexpected memory surfaced from someone who had said almost nothing all night. They remembered a conversation that had taken place long before anyone imagined this evening would arrive. In that conversation, the person from the past had spoken with surprising sincerity. They had quietly admitted that one day, the person you truly love would understand things that even they could not explain at the time. Back then, those words sounded mysterious. Now, they sounded remarkably clear. As everyone reflected on that forgotten memory, a peaceful silence filled the room once again. It no longer felt like the silence of unanswered questions. It felt like the silence that comes just before a new chapter quietly begins. And then, just as the evening seemed complete, someone reached into an old envelope that had remained unopened until this very moment. Inside was one final handwritten page. Never shared, never discussed, and never meant to be found so soon. The first sentence on that page would reveal why every hidden piece had been leading to this exact moment, and nothing could have prepared anyone for how deeply those words would resonate. Some pages are not forgotten because they lack importance. They remain unopened because life quietly waits for the exact moment when their meaning can finally be understood. As the envelope was carefully unfolded, no one reached for conclusions. Every eye rested on the handwritten lines, knowing that whatever came next would not rewrite the past, it would illuminate it. The first sentence was unexpectedly simple. If you are reading this now, it means time has done what explanations never could. No one spoke after those words. They did not need to. The room itself seemed to pause, allowing the message to settle gently into every heart. It became clear that this was never written to defend anyone's choices. It was written to release everyone from carrying stories that had become heavier than they were ever meant to be. Don't skip, because the next few moments reveal the quiet secret hidden beneath everything you have heard. The letter continued by describing something few people ever recognize. It explained that the greatest misunderstandings are often created not by unkindness, but by silence. People assume. They connect unfinished pieces. They fill empty spaces with their own fears. And after enough time passes, those imagined versions begin to feel more real than the truth itself. Last night, that illusion quietly came to an end. Then came a sentence that caused everyone to look at one another with new understanding. The person you truly love was never the reason the past remained unfinished. They simply arrived at the moment when honesty became impossible to avoid. Those words changed everything. Suddenly, every confusing memory found its proper place. Moments that once seemed uncertain no longer carried the same weight. The story had never been about comparing one person to another. It had always been about discovering the courage to let yesterday remain where it belonged, so tomorrow could finally arrive without hesitation. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. As the final lines of the letter were read, they carried neither regret nor longing. Instead, they expressed quiet gratitude. Gratitude for every lesson learned. Gratitude for every misunderstanding that had eventually led to clarity. Gratitude that the person you truly love would never have to carry questions that no longer deserved a place in their heart. Everyone believed that was the end. The letter was gently folded and placed back inside the envelope. A peaceful silence filled the room once more. But just as someone prepared to set the envelope aside, a tiny folded note slipped from behind the last page, so carefully tucked away that no one had noticed it before. It contained only one short paragraph, written in different handwriting than the rest. Whoever wrote those final words had never intended them to be found too early. Yet now, with every hidden truth finally uncovered, that last message was ready to reveal the one detail capable of connecting every chapter into a single, unforgettable ending. The smallest messages are often the ones that leave the deepest imprint. As the folded note was carefully opened, everyone expected another explanation, another missing detail, another piece of the past. Instead, they found something entirely different. The handwriting was calm, steady, and unmistakably sincere, as though every word had been written only after long moments of quiet reflection. The note began with a single thought. If this reaches you, then the truth has finally become more important than the story people once believed. A peaceful silence settled over the room again. Those words did not ask anyone to choose sides. They did not point toward blame or regret. They simply reminded everyone that genuine understanding is never built on assumptions, it grows from the courage to see people as they truly are. Don't skip, because this next realization brings the entire journey closer to its deepest meaning. The writer admitted that they had watched countless misunderstandings unfold without realizing how easily silence could shape the future. Looking back, they understood that every unanswered question had slowly created distance where none truly belonged. It was never one dramatic moment that changed everything. It was dozens of quiet moments that no one stopped to explain. As those lines were read aloud, someone quietly whispered, "That changes how I remember everything." And it truly did. The person you truly love had unknowingly been walking toward this moment for a long time. Every unexpected pause, every unanswered question, every feeling that something never quite added up, was gently leading here. Not toward disappointment, but toward clarity. Sometimes the heart senses the truth long before the mind can understand it. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you. Near the bottom of the note, there was one final reflection. When the past is finally understood, it no longer asks to be carried. It simply becomes a teacher that quietly steps aside. Those words seemed to release something invisible that everyone had been holding. There was no longer a need to search for hidden meanings behind every old memory. The answers had arrived, not through conflict, but through honesty. Just as the note was about to be folded away forever, something unexpected caught everyone's attention. On the reverse side, written so lightly it was almost invisible, was a date. No explanation. No signature. Just a single date that matched an ordinary day connected to the person you truly love, a day that had once seemed completely unremarkable. Only now did everyone realize that it had quietly marked the beginning of this entire journey. And when the meaning behind that forgotten date is finally revealed, the last unanswered piece will fall into place, bringing this remarkable story to the conclusion it was always meant to reach.